Let me preface this rant by assuring you that Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic is, without a shadow of a molecule of doubt, one of the best games I've ever played, and is certainly the best Star Wars-related thing I've experienced. But, in the words of Ben Yahtzee Croshaw, let's talk shittiness. The game started off swimmingly. While in the character selection screen, I noticed that if you choose female as your character's gender, you apparently get to play as Mila Jovovich. Unfortunately, I kinda hated the game's introduction on the Endar Spire. Hello, I'm the expendable minor character who exists for no other reason than to explain the game's controls and spout forced exposition. I normally have no problem with tutorial levels. The Half-Life tutorial does break the fourth wall by acknowledging your keyboard, but I like how you can easily fit the tutorial into the game's continuity as a literal training course for Black Mesa employees. But the way Trask Ulgo slowly and blatantly tells you what's happening and what buttons to press really breaks the flow of what should be a tense escape from a ship under siege. I soon discovered that KOTOR's combat is turn-based.
No! No!
I have never really liked turn-based combat, as it just feels unrealistic to me. I can't imagine any real fight playing out with the combatants taking turns to attack each other. But to be fair, the combat in KOTOR is quite good. The characters still wait for their turn to fight, but the combat is very fluid and fast-paced. The wide variety of actions and abilities you can use allow for complex strategy, and the choreographed fighting moves are cool to watch. I still think that the combat would have been more satisfying if you were doing the fighting and not commanding a proxy to do it, but the combat in KOTOR is pretty fun as it is. One moderate complaint I have with KOTOR is that it's very difficult, especially for people like me who are inexperienced with pure RPGs. Many of the enemies are overpowered, and the customization system is incredibly complicated. Diablo, another combat-heavy RPG, has a simple, intuitive upgrade system in which the functions of your 4 attributes, strength, dexterity, vitality, and magic, are self-evident. But KOTOR has 6 somewhat less clear attributes, and I could hardly begin to get my head around the additional skills, feats, and force powers. Since I enjoy the game's combat, but also like taking the peaceful, diplomatic route, I would recommend picking the Sentinel class and increasing your charisma and persuasion, but otherwise I have no idea what advice I could give new players, as I never completely understood the game's mechanics. But the biggest obstacle I had to enjoying this game was how often it crashed. I don't know why. It could be a bug in the game, the graphics settings, or an outdated video card, but KOTOR is very temperamental on my computer. I had to save virtually every time I entered a different area, not just to save my progress and be able to try different options, but also so that a random stroke doesn't erase all of my work. KOTOR crashed on me all the goddamn time, and I recorded no less than 4 different ways it can crash. The most frequent kind of crash was the most catastrophic. At times, blaster effects would somehow overwhelm my processor. The game would freeze, repeat the blaster sound effect several times like a jackhammer for about a second, then the whole computer would crash and reboot. One time, this happened about 7 times in 3 hours. Sometimes the game would attempt to load a new area, reach the last 10% or so, forget what it's doing, and crash.
It's something important. I'm crashing!
There were a couple of times when the game just fainted without warning. But the weirdest kind of crash had a delayed onset. I would enter a new area to find that the environment is missing and all of the character models are suspended in a grey void. After a few moments of me groping blindly through the level, the game gives up and crashes. Jeez, it's like I was playing KOTOR on an Atari Jaguar. On a side note, I do not understand Pazak. KOTOR's card-playing minigame. Supposedly, Pazak is just a modified version of blackjack, but trying to learn it was as stressful and frustrating as when I first tried to learn poker. By the way, Bioware, holding on to traditional views on relationships much? I really like Karth, who is your love interest if you play as a female, but Bastila is sexy as hell, and I was holding out for some hot